Amazonia has existed for 55 million years. At least 80% of the world's diet originated there, including avocados, corn, potatoes, rice, and chocolate. The Amazon River could supply New York City's water demand for a year in 2 hours. Amazonia's potential is still unknown, and there is much to be discovered. I went there a couple of years ago and was completely mesmerized by what I saw, even after studying it for many years and growing up in Brazil. It is breathtaking. It is also extremely fragile. Overall global carbon emissions hit a record high in 2017, and average temperatures have continued to climb. A new climate report published in 2018 warned us that we need to cut emissions by half in the next decade. If the world fails to do so, we will continue to see extreme weather events, including droughts, wildfires, sea level rise, and coral reef die-off. The predicted scenario is grim. The world as we know it won't be the same. We need to act now. Countries are playing catch-up, and while there's progress, emissions are still growing. Although much attention has been devoted to decreasing emissions, there is a key first step in nature itself. The Amazon rainforest, 60% of which is owned by Brazil, can absorb 20% of the carbon emitted by fossil fuels. My research has shown that cooperation between the Amazon countries is essential to mitigate climate change and should take a front row seat in global policies. So why aren't countries doing more to protect it? The 9 countries that share the Amazon rainforest aren't doing enough to protect it because environmental conservation is expensive, and it is a better short-term solution for socioeconomic development to explore it instead. And also, and this is the part less talked about, because those 9 countries don't work together. They fail to agree on how or even whether to protect it. I decided to become an environmental lawyer when I was 19. I was one of those annoying teenagers with a dream to change the world and thought I had it all figured out. But surprise, surprise, it took me about a decade to decide exactly what I wanted to do as an environmental lawyer. My trajectory was different than most. I started out working for the private sector at big law firms, and rather than actually protecting the environment, I was helping them continue to pollute it. My husband joked that as an investment banker targeting renewable energy projects, he does more for the environment than environmental lawyers assisting those polluting companies. One of the big cases I worked on in the early stages of my career had the goal of continuing the production of asbestos in Brazil. At that point, over 10 years ago, practically the entire world had acknowledged the harms of asbestos and had banned it. Brazil was one of the exceptions. The law firm I worked for was hired to prepare a brief explaining why asbestos wasn't all that bad. If French fries and microwaves also cause cancer, why should we only ban asbestos? While I couldn't really pinpoint it at the time, I felt that that type of work wasn't exactly what I wanted to do with my life. By the time I graduated, I did not receive an offer to work at that law firm. My boss told me that while I was good at what I did, I lacked a spark in my eyes, a certain passion. As someone who had always succeeded in everything I set myself to do, that nearly destroyed me. And it took me many years to see that he was right. Over 5 years later, while looking for a topic for my master's thesis, I found my way to the Amazon rainforest. Specifically, I would work to make the Amazon countries cooperate, because that region was too important to be left for each country to do as it pleased. After publishing a book and working to help environmental nonprofits throughout the world for many years, I can finally say that I found that spark. Amazonia is an interconnected ecosystem with several common characteristics among the countries that share it. A dam in Brazil or an oil spill in Ecuador have impacts far beyond their own borders. Waters flow freely. Animals come and go without checking through immigration. Nature doesn't respect political boundaries, but each country has its own policies on how to protect it. A court in Colombia just declared that the Amazon rainforest as an ecosystem has rights, including the right to exist. Brazil, on the other hand, is reaching high levels of deforestation, backsliding after years of successful policies in curbing rates. Without coordination between countries, it is difficult to define strategies to protect it and impossible to enforce them. But solutions cannot be found without considering a broader picture, including what neighboring countries are doing. There is already an institutional framework in which to do this, the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization, which has existed for 40 years and could be streamlined to more effectively promote cooperation for environmental protection. Another useful way to promote conservation without severely reducing the country's economic prospects is building financial incentives to protect the forest, like many Amazon countries have been doing at a local level. For example, there are mechanisms that promote a self-sustained financial structure to maintain the vegetation along rivers, ensuring that the water that flows through them is clean. These initiatives need to be elevated to a regional level. Forests can keep a significant share of carbon on the ground, acting as a global warehouse of emissions. Since 1980, the Amazon rainforest has absorbed each year almost 4 times what the UK emitted in 2016. On average, Amazon forests have absorbed twice the fossil fuels emitted by Amazon countries. But every year, this capacity is reduced because of deforestation and forest degradation. Preserving Amazonia is one of the greatest environmental challenges of our time. But to be part of the global solution to mitigate climate change, countries need to work together. The private sector has a role to play as well by investing in clean technologies, promoting projects that induce sustainable development, and funding initiatives that help protect Amazonia. It is essential that these also consider cross-border impacts, ensuring a regional vision. Contributing to making Amazon countries work together finally fulfilled that purpose I saw as a teenager. And after finding how I wanted to contribute to a better world, I finally found the why. There's a special guest in the audience here tonight, my 2-month-old son, who is on his first trip. I want to give my son a better world than what those climate reports are predicting. I want him to experience some of the wonders I have been blessed to see. The rivers of the Amazon rainforest, the golden coral reefs of the Maldives. That's where my spark is, not in helping big corporations produce cancer-inducing substances. Who knew?